Welcome back for part 2 of our bedroom makeover, where we're taking our bland and boring primary bedroom and turning it into a charming, historic-inspired sanctuary. In the last episode, we had to deal with this crispy old wallpaper that had been rippling and peeling off of the walls long before we moved in. It practically fell off the walls as we removed it. We had to go back in and do some repair and resurfacing of the old plaster walls, as well as priming and prepping the space for the most beautiful wallpaper that I have ever seen, which we're installing today, and painting the trim, so you don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Our goal with this space is to really lean into the moodiness of it, and we were torn between these two muted greens. We have Featherstone and Hampshire Gray. Hampshire Gray is actually the one that we have in our newly renovated kitchen, and we love it. It's a bit darker and warmer, and we thought actually might be a little bit too dark for this space. So we did end up going with Featherstone, the lighter of the two. It actually leans a bit cooler as well, but I felt like there were several tones within the wallpaper that matched this really nicely. So although we didn't pull a color directly from the wallpaper, I think it's very, very close. For trim paint, we like Sherwin-Williams Emerald collection. It hardens into an enamel, so it's super durable. And funny enough, this color Featherstone that I had picked out prior to telling them which paint I wanted, I was told is part of their designer collection and is only available in Emerald, which is a little bit pricier, but I do think it's worth it for the durability. And to keep myself motivated throughout this project, I just continued to move my little wallpaper sample all around the room. Now, we nearly forgot this step. Primer and the adhesive are two different things. So a lot of times a primer is highly recommended. It helps to create a kind of tacky surface on the wall so that wallpaper sticks a little bit better to it, but this is not the adhesive. So once we had actually primed the walls with a regular primer, which we needed to do because we had repaired plaster, we went back in with this primer, which is a clear primer, but you can see it has like a sheen, so you can see how tacky it is. And then we used our adhesive over that to apply our wallpaper.
So many of you guys wanted to know where the heck we got this wallpaper from when I shared a sneak peek of it in the last video. So I'm very excited to tell you that today's video is sponsored by Art Studio, the wonderful creators of this gorgeous mural wallpaper that we're going to be installing today. Art Studio is a Sweden-based company that creates these artful murals that you can have custom sized for your space. So this gorgeous wallpaper is supposed to resemble a landscape tapestry. So it's got this beautiful textured look to it of a tapestry, but it is actually a nice smooth paper The material definitely is wipeable, so I can tell it'll be easy to clean. It's nice and durable, and it was really, really easy to move around and smooth out without getting wrinkles. So we found this paper to be very high quality, very nice, very easy to work with. But they also sent me some samples of some of the other color combinations that they have. This first one is dark blue. So this is gonna have the same coloring as the trees in the one that we have, but the background of this one is dark blue. So it's definitely gonna be a bit moodier than the one that we have if you want something just a little bit darker. They also sent me the rust red. So this one is a warmer version, same design, but just warmer tones. They also have emerald green, which of course is gonna have really saturated greens. That one is very pretty as well. A teal blue, so if you're leaning more for blues, they've got an option for that. And then the pale beige. And pale beige is for the neutral lovers. You want all of the movement and the texture, but not so much of the color. You want something a little bit more subtle. That one is perfect for that. So I think they have a color in this design that fits with pretty much any color palette you could be going for. I love this one specifically because I felt like it's neutral, the colors are muted, but there's still enough contrast that it still feels moody if you want it to feel that way. I also feel like because of the color of paint that we paired it with, which is a little bit darker, that lends itself more to that moody feel. But if you were to pair it with a lighter paint color, it really would soften up as well. So it's a nice balance of like peaceful yet moody. I think it's just such a timeless and beautiful work of art. Like it truly turned our bedroom into a work of art. So anyway, I'm gonna leave all of the information down below in the description box if you wanna check them out. Try their digital visualizer to see it in your space or reach out to them for a mock-up. They've got samples. Thank you to Bail Art Studio for sponsoring today's video. And let me share with you how the installation process went.
We did all 4 walls in the room, and so we had 4 tubes of wallpaper. Each of those tubes held rolls that would cover that wall, which were all numbered 1 through 10. So you knew exactly where to start and work your way around the room from there. Bail Art recommends that you lay all of the panels out first to make sure that your mural is going to line up properly. So we did that with the first tube, and then we just kind of kept a close eye as we continued around the room. And then for starting, you always want to create a plumb line. So using a level, drawing a straight line down the wall and using that as your guide, because your walls will never be straight and you can end up with kind of a wonky veering pattern if you don't. So we did that actually with every single wall. So every time we turned a corner, the first panel that we put down, we would create a plumb line to make sure that things were lined up as we worked our way around the room.
We are on day 2 of wallpapering. We got about 6 panels done, so slowly but surely. So many little lessons that we're learning. We definitely made a couple mistakes, so I'll show you some up close spots where we screwed up a little bit, but honestly, that's kind of the beauty of having a really busy paper like this, is it's actually really easy to cover up mistakes. If something's a little bit off, it's not super noticeable. Okay, so probably the biggest mistake that we made is me cutting way too much around this outlet. I tried to just put the piece back in there. I mean, you can still see like a seam from it. Granted, we are gonna be switching the outlets. We could get oversized outlet plates, but the ones that I want don't come oversized. But also the good news is this area is gonna have a curtain panel, so you're not gonna see it anyway. This is a weird outlet we literally never use. So this spot right here is the only seam that we have visible. Of course, this design is busy enough that You really, in the grand scheme of things, are not gonna notice this. But this happened, we had it all, we've been lining up the seams first as we go and then pushing the bubbles out. But when we were cutting around this window, it must have gotten pulled ever so slightly to kind of open up this seam a little bit. So my advice to you is you could get a primer tinted that is darker for dark wallpaper, which they suggest doing that. If you have a space that is already painted, like a medium to dark color, you're gonna do a darker wallpaper, you could definitely just use the clear wallpaper primer over it, and that would be so much easier. Like if we didn't have to pull all that wallpaper out, we would have left the walls tan and then just primed over it with the clear stuff, and that would have been perfect. Unfortunately, it was in such bad condition, we had to get rid of that wallpaper. It would have been just a waste of our time. So let's see, so yeah, dark paint under dark wallpaper. I think there are even some primers you could get tinted. The one that we got, I don't think so, but I do believe that there are some that you can have tinted so that they're a little bit darker. So that would have been helpful. And what else? What else have I learned so far? Just patience. It's not as difficult as it is just meticulous work. Oh, the last thing I wanted to tell you before we get started is really stop and think about where your design is going to start and where it's going to end. So because this is a mural wallpaper, there's a certain order that you have to go in. So you have to start on one side of the room and work your way, which I mean, I think you're going to do that anyway, but you have to go in order, and your panels, because they're custom sized, they should match up to be exact. But in case they didn't for whatever reason, we made it to where the beginning and the ending would be just in this really tiny spot above the closet door in this corner. So if it doesn't match up perfectly, you're not gonna notice because it's literally the tiniest little spot. So not in every case are you gonna be able to do that, but I think above a doorway is a great place to try to do that if you can. So otherwise, I think we're gonna get started. I'm so excited to get this all done. It's looking so good, and I'm so ready to get back into our bedroom, so let's do this.
The adhesive that we used was Roman 880, I believe, and it seemed to work very well for us. We did install this through a week that was like a heat wave coming through, and we are upstairs in our old home. It's very hot up here, so we ended up having to reapply the adhesive as we were kind of working down the wall, especially if we had cuts to make that were kind of tedious to work through. By the time we got to the bottom, we had to reapply. So we started kind of applying just a little bit at the top and applying a little kind of as we went, rather than trying to apply it in the whole space, unless it was just a straight panel. That was a little bit easier, but we also noticed that near our vent, if the vent was blowing directly on that wall, the glue would dry incredibly quickly. So all just like little things that we were learning and working through as we went. But ultimately, the most tedious, difficult part is really just cutting around windows and doors and things like that. And of course, the cursed corner blocks that we have up in the corners, which look great, but not fun for wallpapering. once again to pull off this project, we were working late nights. We were on an air mattress for 3, maybe 4 weeks in our living room and very ready to get back into our bedroom. So it was, I think we spent 4 days, 4 different working sessions, I should say. They were, a few hours each time working to install the wallpaper. So it definitely took us a bit of time. Also, you'll notice, I think this is the only moment that I showed it, but we used a damp sponge to wipe off any excess adhesive that may be left over on top of the wallpaper. But yeah, it turned out beautifully. It totally transformed the room. We're just absolutely in love with it, and I have so many beautiful things to put in here, so be sure that you are subscribed and stay tuned. We're going to be decorating. I can't wait to share how it all turns out with you.